Thanks for coming. I've got some great guests with me on stage here. We're going to talk about clienteling. I'm going to do a little bit of an intro because I think clienteling is a term that gets conflated and misused at times. So I'll do a little bit of education, and then we'll bring out some experts who will talk about how they do clienteling and why they do it. And we'll also talk about this thing called AI. It's pronounced OI. To talk about how that's going to potentially change and how clienteling is going to adapt. So a little bit about me, background. I am EVP of Growth at Tulip, which is the leading platform, global platform for clienteling. But I have been on the retail side. I did some stints at BCBG, Target, Derm Store. So show of hands, retailers in here. I feel your pain. I know what you go through, so I can empathize. But hopefully today you'll learn about clienteling, why you should do it, where the technology's going, and hopefully provide some useful information for your next budget meeting. So let's talk about why clienteling works. And I'm going to say something a little bit provocative, and I can say it because I've been a retailer. We've all been getting it wrong for many years, right? We forgot the first rule of business we ever learned, the 80-20 rule, because we focus on that big demand curve, the big one-time purchaser, that bubble at the front of the demand curve. And if anybody knows Peter Fader, who's written books about lifetime value, those customers don't like you yet. They've only transacted with you. And we focus so much money and attention. Meanwhile, the customers who buy 3, 4, 5 times, we leave them alone. Oh, they're fine, they buy enough. And that's the exact wrong strategy. And that's why clienteling works, because if you nurture those relationships with those better and best customers who already like and love you, it's pretty easy to double the share of wallet. And that's what clienteling does. So why is clienteling booming? There's some really key trends in the industry that are helping with the rise and growth of clienteling. First of all, stores are cool again. Remember when they weren't cool? Well, they always were cool. They were always 80% of sales. But now the C-suite is starting to recognize that stores can be growth vehicles. In addition, what we're seeing is humans used to have to do so many tasks. And with the advent of AI and agentic and advanced technologies, now we're seeing humans are being relegated to premium experiences because humans are sentient creatures. We like that human interaction. And so now we're creating new premium experiences, leveraging the power of humans. The other beautiful thing about, my favorite thing about clienteling is you don't have to give Google or Meta a penny. So it's very high margin. You don't have to promote. So this can be a very profitable channel for you. And we like to say retention is the new acquisition. You're sitting on a gold mine of these better and best customers that you don't talk to enough. So what is clienteling? Real quickly, people think clienteling is that ability in a store to look up a customer and see their profile, and that is true. But the real value of clienteling is extending the relationship when you're not in the store. Get them back into the store, get them to buy online, bring them into your brand, make them feel part of something, and you can very easily double the share of wallet. Remember, they already like and love you, these customers, which is the hardest thing to convince anybody to do. You're bringing them in, you're engaging, and you're giving them a concierge experience. Now, people think clienteling is only a store-based thing, but you're wrong. There's a thing called e-commerce clienteling, and these are 2 pure-play brands that are both over $1 billion that do over half of their business through e-commerce clienteling. What they've done is they've hired salespeople, because they don't have stores, who do that one-to-one interaction with their better and best customers. So if you're predominantly an e-commerce brand, clienteling can be an amazing opportunity for you as well. And it's not just a luxury thing, right? Remember the little black books used to just be the high-priced, high-considered purchases. Now we're seeing clienteling going down and wide because everybody has that same problem, right? How do we grow our business profitably? And we all have that opportunity to engage with our best customers. And so now we're seeing clienteling going in all different directions. And technology helps that scale and makes the unit economics work. whereas when you were doing it manually, it didn't. And then also, obviously, we believe with the advent of agentic and AI, it's the perfect 1 + 1 = 3. Leverage the technology to do the things that humans are not good at, but the humans are the tip of the spear. Lean into that sentient quality. And so with the advent of AI, we're still long on humans, technology-powered humans. And so, again, relegating it to those premium experiences. So with that in mind, I want to bring out some smarter people than me. I'm going to introduce them to save some time. Jordan Bowery, who is Senior Director of Retention Marketing and Global CRM at Michael Kors. Kimberly Levine, Director of Retail Operations at Tumi. And Rissa Jarrett, who is the Chief Commercial Officer of Jenni Kayne. And they're all much smarter about clienteling than me. So we're going to find out a little bit more about why they do clienteling. Mic check? Yeah, round of applause. Thank you for allowing me to educate. What's great about the three of you is you've all been with your companies for a long time. You were there when you started the clienteling journey, so there's probably folks here who are maybe thinking about it and like, how do I get into it? And you've got data and metrics and know what works. So I think we want to get into the mind and the journey that you've been on. But Rissa, I'm going to start with you. You're probably the youngest brand here, and you started your clienteling journey early in the life cycle of your brand. So why did you start it so quickly? Usually people want to get certain operations set, but you went fast and furious. How come?
Hi. I think at Jenni Kayne, we have always wanted to turn every client into a customer. And this starts with the store experience. So it doesn't start with Tulip. It starts with the experience you give the customer in the store. And then by the time they're at the cash wrap, they should be wanting to say, how do we connect? So it's really taking that first time experience and having it be so good that they're like, I want to stay in contact with this person. And then to the slide you showed earlier, just that 20%. At Jenni Kayne, we really, at our early stages, always invested in our high value customers through experience, through clienteling, through rewards programs, a lot of ways, but that really propelled our business forward. So, clienteling is a cornerstone of our business. Yeah.
And a lot of brands, if you ask them, they don't do clienteling, but then you find out their store associates are doing it manually. And Kimberly, I think that's how, before you went and used Tulip, talk a little bit about how they were doing clienteling. And then what did the transformation of using an actual technology platform to help?
Sure. Like you mentioned, we started out with the black books. So our associates were taking down names, information, various other information the consumer might share, preferences, future wants, desires. And it really was dependent upon the organizational skills of that associate, right? So you could open up any black book and it would look different than the one next to it. You'd find some efficiencies through multicolor coded highlighters. You'd have daisy chains lists of people you needed to contact for particular reasons. So there was just a lot of back-end organization after the fact and time spent on keeping it organized and trying to remember, when do I need to reach out to the consumer? Oh, this just came in, where's my list, right? And a lot of shuffling around of papers. But it really took a lot of time. So going digital increased efficiencies because now everything is automated, it's in the system. And, we hire sales associates because they're great at sales. To be fair, they're not always the best data analysts or data gatherers. So what digital does is it allows all the data to be there. So through a few touch points, tapping a few different selections, they can actually get a short list of customers that they have that they need to contact, that they need to follow up with, that they need to let know that something is back in stock. So it's really the efficiencies and then the scalability. They're not having to figure it out on their own because while we all have, guardrails, guidelines, best practices, it really came down to the comfort level and the skill level of the associate. So what digital does is it makes the same processes and organization available to everyone. And really that's the key. They have more time to be more efficient, and they're spending their times on the clienteling actions, not on consolidating and validating and authenticating the data itself, which is what they need to be doing, is spending the time doing that. So that's what digital has done for us.
And have you seen commensurate impact in revenue or use cases that it's unlocked for you?
No, absolutely. And it's also the gift of self-sufficiency, right? You no longer need to submit a request to a CRM team. Can you give me a list of consumers to call about this or contact about that? They can go in at any moment. They can go into their book. They can go into their store book. They can say, who do I need to contact about this? Who hasn't purchased? Who hasn't been into the store or made contact in a period of time? And then back to your 80-20 rule, who are my most valuable people? What are their behaviors? And then what can I do, to encourage them to come back in? What else do they need, right? Opening up the breadth of the purchases. When you look at P&Ls, that's always the first thing, when you're investing CapEx in anything. And, we were evaluating and, the investment that we made was paid off in about a month and a half worth of clienteling. And you have authentic, valid clienteling data now, not I think that turned into a clienteling sale. And now we also have visibility to omni-channel influence sales that our store associates are having an impact even when the consumer chooses to purchase online.
It's amazing. Now, Rissa, you've seen similar revenue lift, or what are you open to telling the group a little bit about what % of sales is driven by clienteling?
Yeah, I think we've been with Tulip a little over 2 years, and on average, our clienteling is bringing in, our retail average is about 40% from clienteling. So it's really impressive. Jenni Kayne in general has leaned toward technology just as a way to grow our business, and we found it really important. But speaking to what Kimberly said, just, before going digital, it's messy. There's papers everywhere. You're not optimized. And the people who are good at clienteling are going to be good at clienteling, whether it's a black book or whether it's Tulip. But what Tulip does is it gives all of your associates a leg up to clientele. But yeah, so I think that's one of the reasons it's increased our clienteling sales.
Yeah. So what's interesting is if you look at the titles of the panelists here, Jordan works in marketing, not in stores. And that's a really interesting approach that Michael Kors takes. I actually don't really understand why more marketing departments don't look at clienteling as, oh my gosh, I have a whole new channel that I can leverage and market through. So talk to me about how it ended up and why are you so unique and why aren't others in marketing departments land grabbing like you are?
Land grabbing strong. I don't think it's a question of which model's better. I think it just depends on the business. So for us, we see clienteling not just as like a retail program. It's a omni-channel customer marketing program. And therefore that made sense to then sit with the channel team. Customers also don't think of us as channels. They look at us as a brand. So we're Michael Kors wherever they show up. So it made sense for us to kind of put that in an omni-channel place and to be able to structure our organization in a way that responds to customer behavior. To answer your question of why more marketers aren't jumping on it, I think they will. I think there is a lot of silos in a lot of businesses. And I think for us, we realized very quickly that clienteling is, it's like any other channel, really. It's driven by data. You can integrate it into all your life cycle flows. And clienteling is ultimately the pinnacle of personalization. It's one-to-one interaction. So that's really why we structure it under marketing today.
Yeah. And for those that don't know a lot about clienteling, it is a campaign. It's just delivered by a sales associate. So in coming up with campaigns, Jordan, let's stick with you. What types of campaigns do you run for clienteling? Are they the same, maybe a little bit more personalized than the company to consumer, or are they more bespoke? Or what are some of the best campaigns that you guys see that convert?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the team spend a lot of time supporting with campaigns. I think it's what we try and do with campaigns is reduce the friction for the associates. It's a good campaign really makes it easier for them. We approach it in two ways. So the first is our more kind of event-driven stuff. So typical marketing calendar stuff. We put together a marketing calendar and work with cross-functional partners around the business to really speak to what's going on in the business. So whether that's a new product launch, an event going on, a promotion, something like that. And then the second category, which as a CRM nerd, that really excites me, is really the more customer data-driven ones. So like life cycle. And I think that's where you can get a bit more fun with empowering the associates to think in a very different way to maybe this is why we are unique compared to somewhere where it sits with stores. It's very customer data driven, whether it's prospecting beyond their core client list, whether it's re-engaging with customers that they have previously relationships with, or just following up at the right moment. I think it can be really powerful. So we're actually running a test at the moment, which with our CDP partner who are here, where we are leveraging predictive models to drive associate outreach, which, again, as a nerd, that becomes really exciting. And I think it removes all the guesswork for the associates so they can really focus on what they're very good at, which is building relationships versus data, which we're good at. So,
What campaigns, Rissa and Kimberly, like, I'll start with you, Kimberly, because Tumi is not a frequent purchase, a luggage set, but you've been very successful with clienteling. So what are some of the campaigns that you've seen success with in your unique category?
Yeah, so I think the difference too is understanding that there's brand messaging and then there's clienteling. And depending on the brand, we all draw the line in the sand in a different place. So brand messaging or larger brand campaigns are more about the brand message, the brand voice, the larger overarching. Clienteling is really about relationship building, just to kind of circle back to what you started off with. And so it's not just, hey, I have a new collection out, but it's relating to the consumer specifically about why that collection or a piece in that collection or a feature or a function for us and that collection might be relevant to you. We also are in the lifestyle business, so we don't just sell luggage. We sell backpacks, bags. We get into fragrance. If you haven't been into one of our stores, shameless plug, come check us out. But there's quite a breadth of things that our consumer might need, and maybe they don't realize that about the brand, right? Because if you're landing on the website or you're receiving a brand campaign, you get that one snapshot. But when you peel back the layers a bit, you realize that there are a wider selection of offerings that we have for our customers. So really, you bought the luggage piece. Well, do you need a day bag? Do you need something for the office? Do you need something for work? You're going on a trip. Do you need a crossbody, something closer to the body? How did your trip go, right? And then, of course, the question we always ask the customer is, well, what else do you need, right? Because we're building the basket there. So it's really about building the relationship. And we let the consumer define the relationship, right? So sometimes they do just want to come in, they want to have their selection validated, and then make their purchase. Other times they have a few questions. And especially with a considered purchase, right? They probably want to come in, touch it, feel it, in person. Online, it's hard to judge scale, right? So they want to touch it, they want to feel it. We actually have mirrors in our stores. You'd be surprised how many consumers want to actually try the backpack on or stand next to the luggage to see how it looks. So it's really taking it a step further in just, hey, we have stuff, but this is why specific things might be relevant to you, and something to consider for the future. And then clienteling also enables specific touch points for the consumer: birthdays, anniversaries, preferences. If someone likes chartreuse and we come out with something with a bright green, we want to identify that consumer and let them know. But consumers, we talk about everyone is shifting to experiences, right? We're traveling more, we're doing all of these things. Interacting in any of our stores is an experiential moment, right? So consumers are choosing to do that. You mentioned that retail is not dead. Bricks and mortar is live and going strong. And stores are actually our greatest asset for those of us that have them, because we have the opportunity to go in and experience the brand. It's not just, two-dimensional on a screen.
Rissa, any campaigns that jump out for you, or?
Yeah, they said so many great things. My head is spinning. But I feel like the most important thing for us is, again, at that first point of purchase, when we're wanting them to ask how to stay in contact, often we do, making the first connection pretty fast. So if I connect with them within an hour, thank you so much, loved helping you today. My name's Rissa. Can't wait to help you next time. Then when I reach out to them in 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is, I've already made a connection bonus points if they save your Tulip number in their cell phone, because then it'll just pop up, and that's really great. But that's just a hot tip. But yeah, I think text message is really important compared to email. For us, we see that text message has a bigger return. And then, I mean, many of the things they said, but birthdays, anniversaries, trips, just as personal as you can get. You know, that's where we're at.
Great, great. Okay, let's talk about AI, right? Are you guys sick of talking about AI? Or okay? Okay, good. There's definitely a lot of hype about AI replacing humans. You got 4 people up here who don't think that way necessarily. But Jordan, let's start with you, because I know we talked backstage and you gave me some pretty good opinions on why do you believe humans will still have a place in retailing?
Yeah. I personally believe, and this may be a slightly hot take, like I do believe in AI very strongly, and I think it's helped our business quite a lot. Like my team will probably be sick to death of me talking about AI, but I do think it's also slightly overrated, at least in its current form. I think for me, the opportunity with AI is not to replace humans, but to augment the potential of humans. AI is very good at finding opportunities, but humans ultimately make the connection. And I think why people come into our stores and work with our associates, similar to what Kimberly said, it's an experience, and they want that connection, they want that validation, they want they enjoy the taste of our customers. And I think AI is very good at pattern recognition, etc., but it can't replace human connection. An AI can't find those moments where an associate can see through, what a customer's thinking and anticipate their needs or whatever. So I think AI has been great, and I think there are some applications that have been really helpful, but I think it's, rather than replacing our jobs, it's really about augmenting our jobs and really helping us think further than we could without it. So I don't think AI will replace humans, but I think someone using AI might replace the jobs that we have today.
How about you, Kimberly? You had some thoughts also. Where do you see your team benefiting most from AI in regards to clienteling?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I sat in and listened to a lot of sessions this week, and it's AI and what we're doing to digitize, right? What we're doing to increase service models online, without having to have a live context. What they're doing and what AI is doing is it's replicating and creating the sales associate experience online, right? So what are we going to do in stores to take it to the next level? So AI, for me, gives my sales associate the gift of time, right? I mentioned earlier, they're not consolidating the data, organizing the data, having to sift through the data to figure out what the action is. Now, the data is served up to them. They can slice it and dice it any way that they like. It keeps track of their interactions. They can put in notes, all the things that they were doing manually, and it takes it to the next level. So now, the faster and more efficient that is, the more time they have to take the actions, and the more time they have to invest in the consumers that are in the store, in the 4 walls in front of them, right? Conversion is one of our largest metrics, no matter what category you're in. We all track who comes in, how many people purchase, right? And in high-touch environments, the more time that an associate can potentially spend with a consumer to help answer questions, to be available. So for me, AI provides the gift of time, and I think that's priceless. The associates are now able to do things that drive a higher ROI than trying to shuffle papers and stay organized. So for me, it's enabling the associates to kind of elevate their customer service levels to the next level. What type of service level can we provide? What type of experiences can we have in store? And then the access also to, we expose what we call our catalog. So it's basically all of our product information. So it's giving our associates, again, the gift of time. They go through very robust training, but in the scheme of things, right, in the breadth of offerings, I think for any brand on the sales floor, they can reference features, benefits, weight, anything that a consumer might question. Now they have the access at their fingertips. So there's many different things, but I would say the biggest thing that AI can do for our sales associates is provide the gift of time and efficiency.
And Marissa, you've tested some stuff out. What are your thoughts on AI and humans?
Yeah. At Jenni Kayne, we're very AI forward. And personally, I think AI is amazing if you don't embrace it. You're probably going to get left behind. It definitely, echoing what they said, it feels like data analytics, having dashboards that, give you all the information about a customer feels super important. But, what people are looking for in store is a connection, a feeling, and AI can't do that. So, brick and mortar's not going anywhere, and because it just can't replicate that at this point, right? Who knows in the future, but at this current moment. So yeah, we love AI, but also it just feels like the retail experience is more important than ever to have people walk out your doors with a feeling and wanting to return.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I played my hand on the first few slides, but it's not a mathematical answer of why I should buy the handbag, the backpack, the dress. We want to be styled. I think you said that, Jordan, but we want to be styled. We're sentient. We want someone to tell us this looks good, feels good. It's not mathematical per se. Certain lower consideration products, sure, it's much more mathematical, or it's a low consideration. So it's interesting. I've talked to probably over 150 different brands, and you're seeing a lot of agentic bots on site, and the conversion rates are underwhelming. Anybody from Amazon in here? Okay, so Rufus, $10 billion is like less than 1% of their sales. Okay, that's great. They'll take it. But that's not really lighting up the world. So we haven't yet seen the consumer experience that's leveraged AI that's really changing our lives. It's probably coming. And at Tulip, we're not Luddites. A lot of the AI is to make, as I think Kimberly, you said it well, is like, how do we make their jobs easier so they can do those human things? And it becomes a 1 + 1 = 3. So let's just talk about clienteling. Okay, if you guys I'm going to start with you, Rissa. If you were to leave Jenni Kayne, she's not, calm down. If you were to leave Jenni Kayne, would you do clienteling at your next job, and why?
Yeah, 100%. And why? I mean, just again, without client to customers, without customers, we have nothing. So it's like day one, starting a business, that needs to be the focus. So anywhere I go, I would definitely do clienteling. And I would do it with Tulip because I think it's just a really efficient, and he didn't ask me to say this, efficient, easy, really user-friendly platform. Like I think that, in order for teams to use something, there has to be not as much friction. And a lot of times with technology and our retail associates' abilities, there is. But we haven't seen that with Tulip, so yeah.
Got it. A quick anecdote, though. I was with a home improvement retailer recently, and you wouldn't think they would do clienteling. And I went through the 80-20 slide, and they stopped me, and they started talking amongst themselves. And they're like, Joe, how many gold tier customers do we have right now? And he's like, 2.7 million. And he goes, do we ever talk to them? He's like, no. So that's the idea, is that you're sitting on a gold mine. Retention is the new acquisition. But Kimberly, what about you?
Yeah, so I think as a consumer, I expect certain levels of service when I go into brands, and it's different. And I think whatever category you're in, or division you're in, or brand you work for, we all do a version of clienteling, whether we call it that and apply a fancy label or not, right? So whether it's food service, whether you're in hard goods, apparel, consumers connect with your brand for a reason, and they have a certain expectation of an experience. So whether it's simply the fact that your drink is never empty when you're at a restaurant, or you go into a store to shop because they're always going to have what you need in stock, or going into a brand and expecting to be styled, or looking for features and benefits if you need something that specifically fits that 17-inch laptop, right? So I think no matter where you go, clienteling is really just a fancy label to say customer relationships, right? So whether it's a server in a restaurant, you're in a big box retailer that sells multi-brands, or you're in one of our or another single branded store, right? You're looking to establish that relationship. So it's absolutely relevant, I think, in any category, because again, regardless, you're looking to build loyalty. And why is that consumer going to come back? They're going to come back because you met or exceeded their expectations, regardless of what that might be for your brand or for your category.
I'm going to tell a small story about Jordan for a second, not to pick on you, but we were in a roadmap advisory forum and we were brainstorming AI ideas. And Jordan said, wouldn't it be great if you could use AI to tell me who I should be clienteling to that I'm not? So there's a great piece of feedback you gave us and is in development. But back to the original question, if you were to leave, would you do clienteling?
Could you imagine if I said no? That'd be controversial.
I would not be upset. I think it would be interesting.
The answer, I'd say it depends. I think it depends on the business. I think Kimberly made a very good point that clienteling is just a fancy label for human connection and like client relationships. And I think I would approach it from a business problem first. And I think I'd set up a clienteling program before I approach the tech. I think it's really making sure you have the strategy. Clienteling involves such a cross-functional effort that if you didn't have everyone aligned in the right strategy, you're just creating chaos in stores, which I'm sure we've all experienced at some point. So I think I'd make sure we have the strategy and the tech separately. Like I'd figure that piece out first, and then the tech can scale the strategy that you've already got.
And that's why you need all the different categories, right? You need the tech person and the store ops person and the commercial person, to be successful, right? It's definitely a cohesive, environment, right, to be successful.
I think we have a minute or two. Any questions from the audience? Quick show of hands? Sure. I'm going to give you the microphone.
Can you talk a little bit about talent and what your thoughts are on who you hire and what you look for when you're thinking about building a clienteling program?
I think, our associates do everything. So, they're salespeople, they clientele, they do everything. I think when I look at a team, I look for like a well-rounded team, right? So I get one person and I get the next, and it's like, okay, what do they have and what are we missing? So I'm really looking for like different skill sets based on our business needs to like round out our really small teams so we can be profitable. But then again, I think that, someone that cares, someone that wants to listen to people, someone that wants to make someone feel valued if we're talking about, wanting to, build great, long-lasting relationships. What about you guys?
No, I'd echo the same. And also that, I don't think there's a big difference between what you would hire for a sales associate in a store for direct four-wall selling versus clienteling, because that core skill set of being able to relate to a consumer, being able to, I know this is cliche, but read the room, right? What type of interaction are they looking for? Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's more involved, sometimes they want the follow-up. So really being able to do that, but then to introduce, the concept of staying in touch and what else can I provide for you, right? I can make things convenient for you. We don't need to write down all these style numbers on a card for you anymore. I can just give me your phone number and I can text you a microsite with a basket with all the information and the items and the prices. So I think it's similar to it's a traditional sales associate, but it requires additional skill set of training, best practices, and then also support, right? It's a new process. Just the word AI can make people nervous. The word AI can be applied in certain areas and maybe people aren't expecting it to come up in others. And then just technology in general, just having that comfort.
I think from our side, because we're in marketing, so I think us managing clienteling, we look for people who are just interested in customer relationships. I think it's very similar to like the associate level. I think we want someone who's not just interested in the numbers or ROAS or open rates, whatever. It needs to be about building human connections. For us, it's about building connections with the associates to go and empower them to have those relationships with customers. So shout out, I actually have an open role on the team for clienteling. So I didn't plant this question. So if you know anyone, please recommend.
Also, though, the management piece of it, because not only is it about who you hire, but it's like the associate gets a great connection, someone writes them back, they come in, they purchase, really rewarding your associates and teaching people how to reach out, how to pick up the phone and call, and giving them that confidence in a world where we're not making as many, phone calls, especially a lot of our associates, doing that sort of thing. But yeah.
Last question, anybody? Well, maybe we'll do two.
Hi. How do you align your general CRM strategy to the clienteling strategy?
You mean like the other kind of like
The
corporate?
mass market kind of.
Yeah, I mean, there's some alignment, but it's a different approach. So like a lot of the messages and the key beats will be the same. So like if we have a key product launch, we're going to be doing it across all channels. But I think the way we do it is very different. So what we'll tend to do is give the associates a kind of pack of like, here's the actual asset, here's some of the stuff that's going out from a corporate perspective. And then it's a much more personal touch from the associates. It's not the same thing, and it's not mass kind of spray and pray from an associate account versus a corporate account. I think it's very much like we kind of give them more kind of key talking points and more in-depth product knowledge where you can sort of complement. So, oh, we also sent an email about this. Here's some other things that are not in the email that you will appreciate talking to your customers about. So it's complementary, not competing with it. And that was actually a learning point we had with our associates. They initially, when we did this, they were trying to think they needed to compete with it, where we've actually seen a complementary approach actually perform better.
And just to bring it back to an AI conversation, a feature that we have is the ability to take all the data of a customer and summarize it to give the clienteler some nuggets and content. It'll even infer from previous conversations, if you have a preference, that they might not have explicitly stated, but that's a way that gives the clienteler something to work with to make it personalized. One more question?
Hi. So regarding the associates experience, we know that there are different technology tools inside of physical stores, like clienteling tool, like Tulip POS system, POS hardware, sometimes another loyalty program. How do you guys dealt with that in your brand? There are many software that the associate need to use, or they use Tulip POS as well in order to not have different login and passwords in their daily job.
Yeah, so I think the ideal is to have as few systems as possible, right? Our associates do need to manage multiple systems. The way we've approached it is we have a central repository of customer data, transactional data, product data, and we feed all of that into Tulip. So the associates have a one-stop shop for that. We don't actually use the POS function, so we do have a traditional standalone, but that information feeds into the master data, which comes into Tulip. So for client view of the client, analysis of the client book, actions that might need to be taken, the system prompts the associate when they log in for the morning, here's some follow-ups you need to do, here's some outreach you need to do, here's a few other things you need to follow up on. And you can even put in, daily operational tasks as well, so they kind of have a one-stop shop. The ideal, I think, for anyone would be to have one single, but that's not always possible in today's environment. And to your first point was the technology is very important. You want to have something that's easy for them to use, comfortable for them to use, portable. We use iPhones as well as iPads in the store.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Anybody want to get a glass of wine with me? I'm buying. Now, thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to everybody here. Jordan, Kimberly, Rissa, and thank you and enjoy 2026.